Hey, what's up everyone? Danny Line back with another video. Today we are checking out the Elgato Facecam mk2. In just a second, we're going to switch over to the Facecam. I just want you guys to get to see what a real camera looks like ran through an Elgato capture card versus the mk2 Facecam by Elgato. So this is my Sony right here. And let's switch over to the Elgato in 3, 2, 1. And this is the Elgato Facecam in a very dimly lit room. It is an extremely grainy camera, so let's go ahead and brighten this room up. We're going to turn on a couple more lights and light this thing up like a Christmas tree and see if we can get rid of that grain. Alright, so we have brightened the room up big time. The camera is currently on all the automatic settings, and this is exactly how it looks. And I'm still seeing a lot of grain, which does not make sense for the amount of light we have in this room. No room should ever have to be lit up this bright. As you can see with the Sony, that is a lot of light. That is a lot. And I mean a lot of light in this room right now. Now, honestly, I think this is a very acceptable, nice looking camera if you don't mind a little bit of grain. If the grain bothers you, this camera may not be for you, or you're going to have to find some way to remove some of this noise. Now, the camera does have some noise reduction, but if I put this on high, there's still a bunch of grain, and that basically did nothing. If I put it back on medium, if I put the noise reduction on low, or if I turn it off, there's still lots of grain in this camera. So I just go ahead and leave it on medium. That seems to work the best, I guess, without degrading the image quality at all. Right now we have all the controls on auto, so it's picking the exposure, the ISO, the white balance, the whole shebang. So let's go ahead and turn the automatic controls off and start adjusting this to see if we can make it look better. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is get the exposure correctly. So we're going to go down to a shutter speed of 1/30. So if you go down to too low of a shutter speed, you're going to have crazy motion blur. About 1/30 is the lowest you want to go, and that doesn't really get much motion blur at all. So now we're going to crank up the ISO until we get a nice exposure, and that actually looks pretty good right there on about 250-ish. So that's a very nice exposure, but we are still very grainy. So now we're going to adjust the white balance and try and get the white balance where we want it to get a natural skin tone. And I do have rosacea, so I do have a lot of, pink or red in my face, but right around, 4800 is where my room should be. About 4800 is where my lighting is set to. So that should give us a very nice, very natural looking skin tone right there. And yeah, that's the best this camera is going to look. Now, I do see a lot of people making videos for this camera, and it looks 100% beautiful. I think either they're using a different camera and lying to you, or they're doing some sort of color correction on video editing software, which I'm going to show you guys right now. We're going to go try and do some color correction on some editing software. So I am going to hold up my white balance card, take a screenshot of this, and then we're going to go put that on video editing software and see what we can do to make this look better. Alright, so now we are going to go over here to DaVinci Resolve, and we're going to find our screenshot, if I can get the darn screenshots to open. And let's go ahead and drag this on here to DaVinci. The first thing we're going to do is go over to the color wheels. We are going to click the little white balance thing. We're going to zoom in on our white balance card, and bam! That should set 100% proper white balance for my room. So now the next thing we're going to do is let's just kind of zoom in on our face. We're going to go ahead and adjust the image a little bit and try and make it look a little nicer. That looks pretty good right there. We're just kind of moving these wheels to get a better exposure. We can probably do a little bit of noise reduction. That looks pretty good right there. And we're going to darken her up just a little bit. Let's add some contrast. A little more contrast. That does look really nice. So let's go ahead and redo those wheels. Now that we're viewing a little more of the entire image, this camera is looking much, much nicer after just a little simple bit of color correction on Resolve. If we bring the mid details down, let's see if that's going to reduce some of the grain. So let's try mid details. And that does reduce the grain a little bit. Nothing too crazy. There might be something on here to remove noise on Resolve. I'm not 100% sure if there is or not, but you might be able to do that. So with a little bit of adjustment, you can make this look a little more like a professional camera. You definitely can if you know what you're doing and you know how to color correct. Now back to this, you're going to see there's a pretty big difference between what you just saw and what you're seeing right now. So if you actually want this to look as good as possible, you will need to do color correction on your video editing software. If you're using OBS, you can actually make a LUT, which takes that color correction and puts it onto OBS, so you only have to do it one time. But of course, if your lighting in your room changes or anything, then that LUT's going to be incorrect. It's not that hard to make a few quick adjustments like you just saw me do right there on DaVinci Resolve. I mean, it might take you 2-3 minutes just to get it looking nice. You might spend 20-30 minutes on it to get it perfect, but it's not that hard to do a little bit of cool stuff on DaVinci Resolve and get this camera looking pretty decent. So my overall thoughts on this camera is it's going to look way better than most webcams. This looks so much better than any Logitech cam I've ever had. It looks better than the Anker webcams, except for the fact that it's grainy. Honestly, I don't mind. Some people will actually put film grain into their video to get a specific look. So if you like the look of the grain, this might be a camera you want to get. If you do not like the look of the grain, then do not buy this camera, because this camera is going to be very grainy. Like I said, we are in a super bright room right now. Again, just to remind you how bright this room is, this is a very bright room. Let me go and turn these lights back off so we're back in a nice dimly lit room, which will look much nicer for a camera like this. We are back on the Sony. And yeah, that should have made a very big difference. I mean, if you can afford a mirrorless camera like a Sony ZV-E10 and something like an Elgato Cam Link or the Elgato HD60X capture card, which is what I'm using right now, you're going to get way better quality than any webcam is ever going to give you. So if you're looking for really good, really awesome image quality, you are not going to get that out of a webcam. But in a dimly lit room or a very bright room, it's still going to look very grainy. It definitely looks more grainy in a room like this. Let's go and zoom in a little bit. I mean, you can really see the grain. Like right now when I zoom in, you can really see how much grain is actually in this. Of course, zooming in makes it worse, but yeah, there's a lot of grain in this webcam, guys. Personally, I think it's a nice looking camera. It doesn't really bother me too much personally, but I can definitely see how this would bother some people. But I think the overall image is pretty nice. It's definitely not perfect, but it will make you look decent for about 150 bucks. So I think that's going to wrap the video up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want to get one of these cameras or a Sony camera or some awesome lighting or microphones or anything like that, in the video's description and the pinned comment, there will be some affiliate links to some really awesome products. All my favorite things that I recommend are on that Amazon shopping list. And if you buy something off that, it does give me a commission and it does help support the channel. So if you're looking for that camera, this thing, that thing, the other thing, and some other cool stuff, check that out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Lightning out. See ya.